to write this, what is x times x? Yeah, and then what's x times 1? 1x. Okay, so just so that you remember this x goes to both. Okay, so now if we do the same thing here, what are we going to get? Yeah. Okay, 2x plus 12. Now, what do we need to set this equal to? 0. So this is going to be a little bit different from that one that was linear. We could just solve it. So here, when we solve this, we'll get x squared minus 1x minus 12 equals 0. So how do we solve that then? Yeah, negative x is that. So negative 12 and negative 1, what factors do we get? Negative 4 and 3. So we will have x minus 4, x plus 3 equals 0. So what should number 3 get? Again, most today you're not going to see like this where we actually have to factor. Most of them today that we look at are going to set up this way. But I just wanted to review that with you. All right, so now let's start the new section. Direct variations. What I want us to be able to do is, can we write the equation of direct variation? Can we decide? Can we interpret, is it actually going to be direct or not? So the first thing you have to know is what an equation looks like. So, direct variation is the relationship between two variables, which one is a constant multiple of the other. So, in your notes, write y equals kx. The other equation I'd like you to write in your notes is this one. If I solve for k, what's my equation going to be? How do I get k by itself? Divided by x. So let's write that over here. Because we're going to use both forms today, so I just want to have both in your notes. So if I ask for the function rule or the equation, I want this one. But later we're going to be talking about, well, what's the constant? You can find the constant by taking y divided by x. When have we seen y divided by x before? Yeah, right, that's exactly what it is. Doesn't this look like y equals mx and then plus b but b is 0? Okay, so that's direct. So here's an example. Say the length of your nose very directly with the number of lies you told, like Pinocchio. So if I don't tell any, I'm going to start, we're going to say 0 in this case. Right up there. What happens if the more lies I told? Yeah, so I would get something like that. So it makes a line. So over here on the board, we're going to write our equation that we're going to use today. And so for direct, we're going to have y equals kx. That you want to know. Okay, you'll want to know that equation. You can remember that it makes a line. We're just going to use k instead of x. All right. I want to know if I'm given a table, if it's going to be direct or not. Today we're going to look at direct. Towards the end of the second hour, we'll start looking at inverse. So I'll be giving you tables and say, okay, is it direct, inverse, or neither? And that's where we're going to be headed the rest of the week. So if we look at this, how you decide? Well, what I need to know is what's k. And how do we say we can find k again? Divide y over x. So let's do that. Let's look at each of these. My y is negative 21. I'm going to divide it by 3. What do I get? Negative 7. Okay, let's try it for this one now. Take negative 14 and divide it by 2. Negative 7 again. Check the third one. Negative 7 divided by 1. Negative 7. Are those all the same? Yeah, so it is direct. If you get your constant when you divide them, if all of these are the same, it is. So the first one, determine whether y varies directly with x. Yes, it does. Okay. Second says, sentence says, okay, if it is, what's the constant? Well, what do we get for the constant? -7. Okay, this right here we found was k is our constant. Last sentence then asks, what's the function rule? What's another word for function rule? Equation. Okay, so what's my equation? Well, that's why we have to remember this. Y equals k times x. So my equation will be y equals what? -7x. Perfect. Notice, am I adding anything onto the end? No. If you're adding a number onto the end, it is not direct anymore. Direct has to go through the point 0, 0. Okay? I'll let you do it. Okay. Let's try the next one. Okay, let's look here. Again, we're going to do the same thing we did here and divide it out. So 4 divided by 1, 4. How about 8 divided by 2? 11 divided by 3. 3.6 repeating, or those the same? No, even though you could round it up to 4, no, this has to be 12, doesn't it? Okay, so this is no, they are not direct. Okay, and the reason why, because there is no constant k. And if it's no, can I answer the rest? No. So expect that. On Friday, I think when we take a quiz on this, I'll give you a table. If the answer is no, you're done. Don't try to answer anything else. Okay, so if it's yes, you have more work to do. But if it's no, you write no and you're done. And even in the homework today. So, questions if you're given a table, how to decide. You look, divide y and x on each of them, make sure that constant's the same. If it is, then it's the x. If it's not, then you're done. All right. Now, what if I give you an equation? So we looked at a table. Now I want to know if it's a direct variation using the equation. Well, if I look here, my equation has to look like this. So maybe at the top of the page, we write, when you see the word directly, y equals k times x. That's what it should look like. Directly means you're going to multiply your constant times something. Well, we got to get y by itself for each of these and decide, are they going to be direct? So, how do I get y by itself on this first one? What should I do first? I would, which one? I would subtract the 5x. That's what I would do. You can divide by 3, but I think less mistakes are happening if we subtract first. So we get 3y equals -5x. Now we want to divide by 3. So y equals -5 thirds x. My question is then, does this look like y equals kx? Yeah, why wouldn't it? But isn't this just a number? Couldn't I change that to be -1.6 repeating? So yeah, if it's a number, it can be a fraction, it could be a square root, it could be any type of number, just so it's being multiplied by x, and it is. Do you agree? Okay, so this is yes, actually. And then what am I multiplying by? What's my k? That's the second question. Yeah. -5 thirds. What that does look like. I'm not adding anything on, it's just some number times x. Okay, next one, how do I get y by itself? Make sure you divide all 3 by 7. Okay, so we're going to get y equals what? Yes. 7 divided by 7 is 1. Sometimes people want to put 0 there, but remember, you're dividing by itself, so it's 1. Does this look like y equals kx? No, why not? Yeah, this kx one, if you want, you could even say plus 0. Remember, it has to go through the point 0, 0. This one goes to the point 0, 1. So this is a no. So this is not direct. Now, when I graph it, does it still make a line? Yeah, but it doesn't go through 0, 0. To be direct, it's a line that goes through the point 0, 0. That's it. If it's not direct, there's no constant. You're done. You guys try these two. I already both yes. This one is a lot of you know, which I expected. I put this one on here for a reason. What number is next to my x? 1. Do you agree you could rewrite this as 1 over 9? So you're right. It looks like x divided by 9, right? So hey, that's not going to work. But remember, division is just multiplied by the reciprocal. And so we could change this to 1/9 and then tack on the x. These two are the same. So now does it look like y equals kx? Yeah. Okay, so expect to kind of see that in the order of things. Whatever you want, just put a number there and then under this one in this case. So what's k? 1. Okay, this one, what did you guys get? Yeah, 7/3. So see here how the 7 was already there, so you could see it more as a fraction versus that other one when it was 1. So your k here would have been 7/3. So both of those are direct. Really, the only thing that makes it not direct is when you add on a number. Or subtract. Next type of questions look like this. I'm going to show you all of this, kind of two methods. I'm going to show you both. You can decide which one is easier. I'm going to show you what I think is easier first, and then I'll show you the other method. There are some that use some of both in the other class, so you guys will get to decide. Okay, so first sentence says, suppose y varies directly with x. Okay, so that's going to be key, especially tomorrow. When it says directly, because tomorrow we're going to make the inverse and directly toward the end of the hour. But direct, y equals kx. Okay. I also know now that y equals 9 when x is negative 15. I am going to group that together. So if I know y is 9, x is negative 15, how do I find my constant? What do I do again? Divide, right? Wasn't k y divided over x? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that up then. So my 9 goes on the top, my negative 15 goes on the bottom. Nope, y divided by x. Look, if you look here, you want to get k by itself, so you got to move the x over. Okay. Now, next statement or sentence, I break it into like segments here. If we look at this next one, what is y when x is 21? Well, how would that look as a fraction then? Where does the 21 go? Top or bottom? On bottom. So this is x. Y goes on top, right? Once you have these, the same function, so they have to be equal. So now isn't it like the first example we did today where you just cross multiply? Okay, so this is one way to solve it. So let's finish. Okay, so here we're going to cross multiply. So we're going to get 9 times 21. So we're going to get 189 equals negative 15y. So then I'm going to multiply this way. Okay, how do we get y by itself? Divide. You said 12, right? Notice it's a decimal, that's okay. And you can leave it a fraction if you want. I'm going to make it a decimal. So there we found y. So knowing that, to find your constant, you take y over x. That's solving it. Now, I'm going to show you the other method. You can choose if you want to write it down. For the second method, I'm going to use this equation here. Instead of solving for k, I'm just going to know y equals kx. Okay, so this is how I would do this. I would first take my numbers that I'm given and that I highlighted in green, just like we did here. I'm going to solve it though as an equation. So I'm going to have 9 you want to solve it. You wanted the decimal, you can, or the fraction. All I did was I found out what k was. Okay, I took my equation and I solved for k. And I get this. Well, now in purple, I need to know what y is. I use the same equation again, so it's like doing the equation twice. Using y equals kx. I don't know y, right? That's my unknown, so that's y. What's my k? Yeah, -3/5 or the negative point, whatever you want to use. The 0.6 is fine too. Do I know what x is? 21. So now I multiply those. And how do you multiply that in your calculator? How do you put that in? If you don't have a fraction button, how do you do it? Yeah, so take -3 divided by 5, multiply by 21. So just divide it and multiply it twice. And when you do that, you should get -12.6. So you can use the equation twice. It's kind of how I describe it. When you're first finding k, once you know k, you're plugging it back in to find y. Or what I think is easier is just setting up the two as fractions and then cross multiplying. So there's two methods. Are we okay? You choose. I don't care. Personally, I'll do this one more often than I'll do that one. At least for now. Tomorrow will be a little different. I think this one is. Where you just set up this and then cross multiply. But really we're doing the same thing because here we see how we divided that. So really you're finding that answer and then we have to multiply by 21. So that's what we're doing here. It's just I'm laying it out differently, where here you can just, whichever, it's up to you. I do have some students that do this. Try one, whichever method you want to use. So try this one, and then I will tell you if you got it right. Thank you. Okay, so again, everything we're doing today is directly, so at this point, so that doesn't matter. But when it's directly to find our constant, we take y divided by x. So y is 10, so I'm going to go 10, and I'm going to divide it by 3. Okay, so 10 over x, and that equals then, on this side, I don't know y, so y goes on the top, and I get 7 on the bottom, because that's my x. Okay. Now when I cross multiply, I'm going to get 70 equals 3y divided by 3. Now, if you don't have a calculator, leave it. 70 over 3. If you want, you can divide it out and get 23.3, right? So, either one. Now, I have a question. What if I change this? And when I made my fraction, instead I went 3 over 10. Can I do that? Yes. Because when I do this, then what am I going to get? Where does my 7 go now? On the top. Because aren't these both x's and on the bottom would be y? When I cross multiply, I get the same thing I did over there. So it is y over x, but if you flip it, when you're solving, it doesn't matter. If I ask for the constant, it matters. Because your constant has to be y over x. But when you're setting up proportions, it doesn't matter. Okay? And that's going to come into play on the next problem here. So, here we go. We have a salesperson whose commission varies directly. Okay, so it's directly again. For every $1,000 in sales, the commission is $85. What is the commission if they sell $2,300 in sales? Okay, so 1 month they're a little bit higher. How much are they going to make? Well, what do you guys want to put on the top? Because remember, it's direct. So I'm going to take something and divide it by something. What do you want y to be? 1,000. Okay, so I'm going to say we want sales over commission. Okay, it doesn't matter. If you want to flip it for commission on top, that's fine. But you guys said this first, so let's do this. So 1,085. Do you agree that that's one group? One sentence, that's going to be one of your information. So we're going to take 1,000 divided by 85. Then, what's the commission if I make 2,300? Well, how's that going to look? Sales over commission. What do I want? I want commission, so what am I going to be looking for? No. I don't need to always find Y. What am I looking for? If I went sales over commission, my commission is X, isn't it? So I'm going to look for X this time. Doesn't matter. You can call it whatever you want. I can even call it C if I want it. Doesn't have to be X and Y. And then the 2,300 goes on top. So notice, whatever unit, if it's a story problem, whatever unit you put on top, it better be top on the other one. So we chose sales on the top, so both of these numbers better be sales. And then commission is what goes on the bottom. Now we could flip it. If you wanted Y, let me put it over here, we could have done 85 over 1,000 and then made it Y over 2,300. You're going to get the same answer because you notice when I cross multiply, either case don't I have to take 85 times the 2,300. Okay, so I'm going to solve this one over here. So we are going to get 1,000x equals 195,500. Running into my cartoon. Divide that, so he's going to make, or she, $195.50. So that's for the commission. So again, then make a statement afterwards. What does that mean? Okay, well for this problem, the commission, $195.50 when sales are 2,300. So again, it's setting up that proportion as you're solving it. And again, it doesn't matter sales or commission, commission over sales. That really doesn't matter. All right, you guys try one with grams of cheese and calories. You will not make a fraction. I would, yeah, either with grams or calories. That is kind of how I would set it up. Again, it could be flipped. So my 50 grams goes with my 200 calories. That's this. Over here, 70 grams. So notice, I put grams here over my calories. So that's what I have to have over here. Then when you cross multiply, you should get 50x equals 1,400. So what's x? 280, right? So 280 calories. From 70 grams of cheese. questions? Next one here, if we look at these, one of these is not direct. Which one and why? Right. You notice this one does not cross at 0. So if I wrote an equation for this one, I would get y equals negative 1x. My slope is negative 1 plus 2. That does not look direct because we are not going through 0, 0. So these are both direct. How do you find the k if it's direct? How do I find the k from my graph? Y over x, right? It's your slope. You're really just finding your slope. So what's the slope of this one? 1. So k would be 1 here. What would k be on this one? Close. Yeah. Whoops. Yeah, we're going down. So that's why. Okay. Last thing before the bell, think about this when you come back. Tell me which one is true. Or are they both true? So a linear function is always direct variation, or a direct variation is always linear. So just think about and circle which one you think is true. And then after the break, we will look at it. How do I